Hello, this is Daryl here, sending love as always. Thank you for tuning in. I just want to say if you like this interview, you can check our website for companion workbooks, action guides, tools, checklists, templates, and show notes with links for everything mentioned on the call. Just visit bestbusinesscoach.ca. That's best, B-E-S-T, businesscoach.ca. Enjoy. Hi, I'm Daryl Urbanski, and welcome to the Best Business Podcast. My mission is to help create 200 new multi-millionaire business owners. How? You'll do better when you know better. In my interviews, you'll hear from self-made millionaires, seven-figure business owners, authors, and world-class experts sharing how they did it so you can too without experiencing the same obstacles they did. Now, if you like this interview, please share it with a friend you think will benefit. They'll appreciate it, and I will as well. You can also connect with me on social media. Look for Daryl Urbanski, D-A-R-Y-L, Urban Ski, U-R-B-A-N-S-K-I, and add me so we can be friends. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy what I've prepared for you right here, right now. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Daryl Urbanski, your host as always, and today we are joined by a man I've admired for years, but this is actually our first time speaking. And the man I'm talking about is Yanik Silver. And I first heard of Yanik through some of Dan Kinney's interviews about his instant sales letter software. And when I was starting out, I was buying every course, joining every program, and consuming everything I could get within reach. Yanik had a fresh perspective on business, was very straightforward, and obviously knew a lot of things. I especially loved his philosophy about how business should be played where profits, fun, and impact meet. He started with his first $1 million idea at 3 o'clock in the morning and has bootstrapped 7 other products and services to the 7-figure mark from scratch without funding, taking on debt, or even having a real business plan. His story and businesses have been featured in Wired, Time.com, USA Today, SmartMoney.com, MSN Money, Entrepreneur, Fox Business News, Worth.com, and the Wall Street Journal, among others. He is the author of several best-selling marketing books and tools, including Maverick Startup, Instant Sales Letters, and 34 Rules for Maverick Entrepreneurs. He was even named one of Entrepreneur Magazine's top 50 favorite online marketing influencers. He's the founder of Maverick 1000, a global collective of the top entrepreneurs and industry innovators with participating icons such as Sir Richard Branson, Tony Hawk, Chris Blackwell, John Paul DeJoria, Tony from Zappos, Russell Simmons, and Tim Ferriss. And today he's here to share some concepts with us from his upcoming book, Evolved Enterprises, and how to truly change the way business is played. So Yanik, thank you so much for your time, my friend. How are you doing today?
Thanks, Daryl. Appreciate it. Yeah, a lot of stuff to get through there. As you're talking about, I'm like, all right, we should just jump in anyway and just get going. We'll have to create a short bio.
Yeah, well, but I mean, at some point, like a lot of people might not know who you are or what you've accomplished, and I mean, for you, this is probably like interview 3,772, right? But there's a lot of value for the people, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. And I appreciate your personal story about it. I mean, that's, like I'm the same way. I'm a huge, reader, studier. I mean, one of my very first kind of mentors, I guess, I was really lucky actually to work for my dad's business growing up. I didn't think so at the time, but I sold medical equipment. I was like 14. I'd be telemarketing, sell my own latex gloves. And 16, I'd be out on the road cold calling. And our family's Russian immigrants. My dad's like, "Go, Mr. Yanik, go make some sales." And so, but there's a doctor client of mine that gave me this Jay Abraham tape and kind of turned on the lights about direct response. And I couldn't get enough about it, like learning about psychology and direct response and marketing and how to stop cold calling, which really sucked. Mm-hmm. And I just, like Dan Kennedy, like I just totally, started reading, devouring all that stuff, and Ted Nicholas, and you name it, John Caples, David Ogilvy, all the greats in advertising, and then Earl Nightingale, who's one of my favorites. He had this kind of quote or saying or philosophy about if you study for 1 hour a day for 3 years, you can become an expert in any subject, or if you study 1 hour a day for 5 years, you become a world class expert. Yep. I just really took that to heart and learned everything I possibly could.
Yep. Yeah, yeah, you know, me too. And I feel like that's been a huge just learning. Again, like the people listening to this, you have to be plugged in. I mean, you get it. You've run the Maverick groups, right? Like you totally get it that there's the exchange of ideas and even like the friendly competition with other people and just filling your brain with as much as you can because you never know. Like ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is pain. It's failure. It's suffering. You know, what you don't know can and will hurt you. So I think that's part of why I think when you realize and wake up, why you become such a voracious like learner, right? So
Yeah. I mean, I think that your life changes. Maybe we can talk about this a tiny bit if you want, but our lives, or at least my life, has changed in three ways. One, through the material, the content, the books, the resources that you read or study, the people that you meet, and then the experiences that you have. Like to me, those are kind of the only ways that my life has changed.
yeah, I think like now I'm 32 now, and as I get older, I feel like life becomes more and more simple. In the sense of like you know what I mean, like you get enough days under your belt, you kind of start to get better organized stuff, and I'm like, wow, my life must have been a mess when I was like 18. I had like no clue, you know.
Well, there's a good Steve Jobs quote which I really like, which is like you can't connect the dots looking forward, right? But you can connect them looking backwards, and it's like finding all those things that were kind of messes. They were like zigzags. They're like figuring out what you kind of latched onto, what was interesting, with your background with the studios that you had, the fitness businesses, like all those, right? Like martial arts stuff, like all of that lent itself to where you are now because, and probably there's 8 other big aspects that lent themselves even more. And then now you're probably looking at, okay, how do I connect all these pieces? And that's what I've been really, I'm almost like refining, like chipping away at what is and what isn't, my true sort of real unique gift. And I think that's what all entrepreneurs can find is what's their true path, their true essence. And that's where it gets really exciting.
Yeah, can you talk a bit about that? I love how you mentioned like the connecting of the dots. So for you, what were some of the big dots and challenges and milestones that you had to cross? I mean, you've launched multiple 7-figure businesses, and I'm sure, you probably forgive me, but you probably were full of yourself in a couple of places where you're like, hey, I've been here before, I got it. And then you probably had to learn some lessons. And could you maybe share with us somewhat like what's that path been for you looking back?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you ever stop learning and getting those lessons. Yeah, they weren't businesses, but products, services. Some of them were under different businesses, some were under the same business. Just to clarify that point. But for me, some of the big pieces were learning copywriting, like what I talked about. Like literally at 17, 18, getting this copywriting education and learning about direct response, like that was a critical piece. And that was absolutely, I look at skills that give you leverage. And so the ability to have, at that point, put words on paper and have doctors call us up and give us their credit card or raise their hands, and who were, an 8 or 9 or 10 on the scale of wanting to buy, totally changed the game for my dad's business, made us more of a national player instead of a kind of a regional player. And that same idea of leverage, I think, has been one of the key aspects that I've learned, because then I started, some of my doctor clients kind of were finding out what I was doing, or at least, they could see some of our ads. Yeah, or they could see our ads that we're running, and they're like, oh, well, I need a little bit of help with my marketing too. And so I'd start consulting and working with a couple doctor clients who wanted more cash-paying patients instead of HMO stuff. And then, so that was cool, but there wasn't necessarily any leverage there because I was trading my time for money. So, learning from people like Dan Kennedy, who's a master at selling information and content, and a couple other people, it was like, oh, okay, well, I should go out and create my own material on this that can help other doctors and not just work one-on-one with them. So learning that leverage was really key. Another big milestone at that moment was putting a stake in the ground in some way. So I had so for that very first sort of venture business, it was so the course for cosmetic surgeons, for dermatologists, I put an ad in dermatologic surgery, and which I'm sure is like coffee table reading for you right there.
Yeah, of course. I was reading it yesterday.
Yeah, it's such good stuff. You just can't wait to dig into another issue of dermatologic surgery. But so I put an ad in there, got 10 people to raise their hands, and 10 doctors, and all I had was a sales letter explaining what this amazing course was, but the course wasn't done. And so sent it out. Nobody ordered. 2 weeks later, sent out a follow-up, or a week later, I can't remember. And then a week after that, sent out the third and final notice. And I got my first order off the fax machine, and it was so just inspiring. I was like, so excited.
Yeah.
Those 3 weeks, I was probably like running to the fax machine every single time it rang, hoping it was going to be an order. It's like, God damn it, it's another, I don't know, something.
Yeah.
It was. But it was finally an order. I was so excited. It's $900. And it's like the first time, I don't know if you remember this feeling of like you've created something and someone gives you money for it. It's a pretty cool feeling.
I do. I remember when it was, and I've been self-employed on and off almost my entire life, shoveling driveways, all that stuff. But for some reason, when I had my martial arts school, that was like the first time I felt like I had a location, I had like a shingle, And I remember the first person that signed up, it was like really, you're gonna be...
right. You know what you're doing, right? You're sure
You sure about this? You know what you're doing? Yeah, because you don't have that confidence yourself. So that's awesome. So okay, so you leverage yourself through courses and info products. That was the first.
So that was. Yeah, that was the first one, and then so one of the lessons there was kind of figuring it out on the fly. Sent out a note to the doctor saying, "Hey, it's being republished, and it'll be ready in 30 days. We won't charge your card." And literally clocked out at 5 p.m. every single day, and got to work till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and just busted my ass to get that thing out there. And then it's like every single piece sort of starts opening up another piece, really. It's and so that opened up this idea of I could sell information, and this was like around 99, and I'm looking around and I'm like, the internet is really interesting. Like before that, I only really saw like people kind of selling how to get rich quick online or just making money selling porn. And I didn't want to be in either one of those camps. Yeah.
Aren't my thing.
But late 99, it was like, okay, there's some business applications that are really starting to come around. And I was looking at the people that were doing well, or at least I could see some of the models. And I'm like, they're selling content, or at least some of them were. And I understood some of the pieces, like, they're using good copywriting, and I've been studying that now, for I don't know, like a long time, 6 years, 7 years by that point. And so I literally asked myself this question, like, how could you create a fully automatic website that is an incredible value for people and makes me money while I sleep? And I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning with this idea for instant sales letters, like you mentioned at the beginning. That was that first little foray, and no technical background, still don't. I had no idea how to put this up online, but jumped out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning and got going on this thing. And same deal, like, it was amazing to have that first email come in it was about a month and a half later that said I made $29.95. And that was, that was a game changer right there.
Yeah. I fully believe that. A little bit of a side tangent, but do you agree with Gary Halbert that every problem can be solved with a sales letter? I know I'm point blanking.
I don't think every problem, but a decent amount of them, and it all depends on the tangent type way that you could solve them, right? If you need cash to pay for your bypass operation, then you can write a good sales letter for that or something else, and someone will give you money. And so, so actually I do have a pretty good example. So one is I wanted to go up into space. And so when Virgin Galactic announced their program, the tickets were $200,000, and I told my wife about it. She's like, "Well, you're not taking money out of our savings for that."
I remember you talking about it. Keep going. I remember you jogging my memory. Yeah, keep going.
Like, okay, well, I won't do that. So I literally said, "Okay, well, what can I do?" And I have this core value that I get rich by enriching others 10x to 100x value that I provide for them, which I think is a natural law in the marketplace. And so I'm like, okay, well, what can I do that would be worth at least 200 to them? And so I created a workshop all about selling high priced content and courses and information and groups. And so I had pretty much have done everything in that information field. And so I put on a very small workshop all about that. And then the recordings of that paid for my space flight.
Got it. So wait, you did the space flight?
No, it's still happening. It's been probably like 7 years since I put in my money for the flight, and it's still, I would say it's probably about 3 more years away. We'll see.
That's cool though. It's coming. So
it's coming. Yeah, I mean, they had a pretty big setback with the crash that they had, and it's really, really sad day for private space travel and space tourism. But I mean, they're persevering over there, and they have another ship that's probably about 75% built right now.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, we'll figure it out. It's not a matter of if; it's just a matter of when. So.
Yeah. And then I give when I see Richard Branson, I give him a hard time about what.
But okay, so we talked about kind of the challenges and the milestones, the things that you've kind of learned and overcome as you progress. So first was just figuring out how to leverage yourself, and then kind of putting the pieces together, learning copywriting, learning how to sell, I guess, and leverage yourself. So first was leveraging what you could do to get money, like instead of working one-on-one, working one-to-many with the sales letter. Then you learned like copywriting to help sell one-to-many. What were kind of some of the next kind of in the evolution of like the challenges you've overcome that have kind of led you to the philosophy that you have today?
Yeah, so some of it, so after that, like I really think that, like I said, like your path keeps opening up, right? And so when I did instant sales letters, my original goal was I was going to sell it for $500,000 to like stamps.com. And the process of working through that led to this next sort of career, which is helping people take their content or expertise and passion and sell it online. Because within 3 months, we were on track to do 6 figures. And so that led to this whole other sort of, I guess career. And then it was, just putting out, like just following my heart there with, what got me excited, that would be the next product or what I was into. And then there came this moment, I almost call this like a cosmic alarm clock that goes off. And I think it goes off in everybody and in different times. And for me, it was when my second child was born, my daughter Zoe, and I don't know if that was the implication or not, or the impetus for it, but I just had this kind of nagging voice in my head, and this question that was like, am I really happy? And it was from the outside in, I was making really good money. Had a great reputation in the online space, which isn't that easy sometimes. Big family, just had this pretty amazing life, but when I got really honest with myself, I wasn't totally happy. And so that was, you could just kind of ignore that and keep doing the same stuff you're doing. But I asked myself, if I'm going to be doing this, if I did this 10 years from now, would I be happy? Right. And then the answer was like, no. And I had, it was tough because I was making a lot of impact, I was helping a lot of people, but it wasn't, I thought I could do something more. I thought I could work with a bigger group of entrepreneurs who, to me, entrepreneurs are the people that are the impact makers, the change makers, the visionaries who are going to make a difference in the world. And that's where I get really excited. And so I thought, okay, well, what do I get excited about? And I spent a lot of time in my journal, and I absolutely recommend journaling. And, maybe if we have time, we can talk about that a bit and how to do it. But through our journal, I came up with these 3 sort of pillars, these interconnected circles of, as a way of just making it short. Shorthand would be a $, happy face, and a heart. And where those all interconnect, we call them maverick entrepreneurs. And this like intermeshing, like the more happiness you have, the more joy in your life, usually the more revenue you're bringing in, the more you're making a difference, the more revenue you're bringing in. They're all surprisingly interconnected. And so that was the first, like that philosophy is still remains to this day. And so I thought, okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on this Maverick Business Adventures group trip. And same thing that I learned way back, like, put a stake in the ground and I'll figure it out. Like I did with the doctor's course. So we said, January 2008, we're going to do this Baja Dune Buggy racing trip, and we're going to run some business sessions, and we're going to, maybe do a little bit of teaching of young kids about business and entrepreneurship, and we're going to have obviously a bunch of fun. And I have no idea how we're going to make it happen, but
we're going to do it.
We're going to do it. Yeah. So I sold the tickets. We had 26 people come. We brought a celebrity there, Jesse James, and it was really amazing. It was really cool. At the end of the day, it cost me $40,000 to put that on, or 30,000. I can't remember, 30 or 40. And so, I'm like, okay, fine. It's it's an investment. It's a new company. And so the previous company, I bootstrapped everything. It was like, it cost me a couple $100 to get it going out of a 1-bedroom apartment. Sounds like an infomercial. This was open checkbook time. And so pretty quickly, about $400,000 in, my wife is like, well, what the hell are you doing? And I'm like, that's a good question. I don't know. And so it's a slightly dangerous thing. It's like, it's one of the most amazing things, and it's also a double-edged sword, is to have this amazing passion for what you have going on. It's also sometimes really dangerous because you might not be looking at a pragmatic business model and you're not. So I have that book, 34 Rules for Maverick Entrepreneurs you mentioned. And one of the rules, I think number 17 is like bootstrap because, money can only solve a lack of creativity or something like that. And you're going to keep pushing money at a problem if you got an open checkbook kind of thing, or if I had said, okay, I'm gonna put $50,000 in and figure it out. So it got to the point where I literally I woke up one day, we had about $70,000 due plus payroll, and I'm like, shit, this is I've been doing other stuff like my passion had totally waned for the publishing side of things, and that was going down because I wasn't paying attention to it. And that had been propping up the other company. And it was like, you're playing, I got my passion over here that I really know there's something, but I couldn't figure it out. And then you got the piece that's bringing in the money and that you've lost a lot of the passion for. Right. So it's a tough spot to be in. And I knew I could easily just go back to doing what I was doing, but there'd be like a part of me that would be dying.
Right.
And so I took, I'm like, well, okay, well, I can either sell my Aston Martin, or I can sell my space ticket to pay for payroll at that point and get some extra cash and get through this cash crunch. And I'm like, all right, well, Aston's a thing, whatever, it's not a big deal. I'll have plenty of other great hot cars if I really want them later on. And so I sold the car, and that was like, I think the universe continues sort of bonking you on the head harder and harder until you get the message. And so that was finally the message I needed to go, okay, look at this thing. And then we changed the business model and totally revamped it. And for me, it was having a big enough reason why. And so if I was just building an adventure travel company, that was not a big enough reason why. Okay. And so it really forced me to go back to the drawing board and think about what did I really want to do? And what did I think I could make how can I make a difference? And I went back and this Maverick ecoverse, or this evolved ecoverse, started coming forward of these 3 interconnected hubs of these like peer-to-peer groups that are on the transformation hub. And then a second hub is the education piece where we extract the best information from these entrepreneurs into education. And then the third hub is an ideation hub of bringing together new ideas from these successful entrepreneurs and bringing in young entrepreneurs to create these ideas that can actually solve global issues in some way. And when I started thinking through that, then I got really excited. Then it was like, yeah, this is worth my life's energy. And during that time period, there's one book called Daring Greatly by Brené Brown. There's a great question in there, and I'm a big question fan. I think your questions dictate your answers. And the question that she posed in there, or a paraphrase of it anyway, is what would you do even if you knew it would fail?
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's a really good one, and it's like, people have done the question, or maybe a more popular one is what would you do even if you knew you couldn't fail, or if you had 6 months to live, but even if you knew you couldn't fail. But even if you would fail, like that gets down to the essence of what would you do regardless. And then not being attached to the results and what's going to happen. And, there's another really amazing book during this period called The Great Work of Your Life, which I highly recommend. And it's by a yogi instructor, essentially. And it's like a breakdown of the Bhagavad Gita, which is one of our oldest texts that we have. And one of the key concepts in there is that you're only entitled to your labor and not the fruit of your labor. And it's a big one.
That is a big one.
Yeah. And so, that's one that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, where it's like, if you put your full heart and soul into something, that's the reward. And that's, and then you're not, your reward, and you're not attached anymore to the accolades or the sales numbers or whatever else happens if you've put your full heart and soul into something. And that was a really big one, because I had to look at myself and ask, did I really put my full heart and soul into what I was doing before that? And the answer was no.
Yeah, because I think that's a really key point, and I'm glad you brought it up, because I've met people that are rich that are happy, and I've met people that are rich that are miserable, and I think that that's a really key thing. And what is it? There's a quote on Mastery I love that's, do it until it becomes dull, and then do it until it's beautiful again. and that just speaks to that. I mean, I lived in Japan for 3 years, and one of the things, it's Tom Cruise mentioned in the movie The Last Samurai, but it really is part of the culture. I remember I was working at Shinsei Bank. I was a consultant there, and I remember I was coming into the headquarters, and there was just a normal day at work, but there was all these people there, and I remember asking someone like, "Hey, what's going on?" They said, "Oh, there's a big conference going on." I'm like, "Oh, well, what's the conference?" And they said, "Oh, it was all the janitorial staff from all the satellite locations." And I was ignorant. I was like, "They're having a conference for the janitors?" And in my head, I was like, "What? Like, what are they going to do? Teach like new toilet bowl cleaning techniques?" Like, I had no idea. And I'm like, "Who's the speaker?" And they're like, "Oh, Mr. So and so, so and so. He's been a janitor for 65 years." And that's when it hit me. I was like, wow, if you've done something for 65 years, you must have some sort of perspective on it, and that's where it just hit me. I was like, wow, and I remember walking around, and even Shinjuku Station. I used to pass through Shinjuku Station all the time, and I remember I would see people cleaning it with toothbrushes. Obviously not theirs from home, but they were cleaning in between the bricks and stuff like that. And I lived there for 3 years, and I really got to learn that they really are a culture about the details and about living and breathing what you do. So I just love what you mentioned there about how you're only entitled to your labor, not the fruit of it, because I really learned that and felt that from there. And I think that that's such an important thing, because I'm sure that you believe this too, because if you were going to be the type to just I'm going to retire and put my feet up on the beach and live in a life of luxury for the rest of my years till I die type thing, you could have, you probably would have, but there's no sense of purpose or drive or meaning, there's a really deep void that will eat at you. And so I think that the questions that you're asking, depending on who's listening to this call and whatever level they're at, they're really important questions, because if you knew all the stuff you're going to have to go through to get to where you want to go, you probably wouldn't get started, right?
Yeah, it'd be a tough one to tell someone from the beginning. Yeah, this is what you're going to get through. But you know what? From an elevated point of view, from from a way of looking back, like I said, that was the best thing that happened, and it wasn't so bad. It's not like we were living out of a cardboard box or anything like that. We were not. We still had plenty of money in the bank, but it was like when you get so entrepreneurs, a lot of times we have our identities so wrapped up in our companies. And this is about separating out, your worth, your self-worth personally versus your company. Like, if things are going great with your company, yeah, you're on top of the world. If things aren't going great, then if your identity is totally wrapped up in your business, so again, back to that attachment of the results, then you're going to go down with that. And so part of this process has been separating out who's me versus the companies and what they do. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs suffer through that, or attaching themselves to their self-worth with their net worth. And that's a big one. And so during this period, it was like, I worked on what would it look like to fall back in love with your business? And so I love what you brought up with the Japanese culture and the mastery of things. And I think having a big enough why, or knowing that there's a bigger reason of what you're doing, that's where you keep having a reason to fall back in love with what's going on. And that's what I had to learn, all these pieces of this evolved enterprise, which is, the new book coming out, about how all these things flow together. And it created this really interesting, kind of elegant diagram where it starts with you at the center. And so there's three interconnected circles: that $, happy face, and heart are at the core of everything. I look at that almost like as my nucleus, as the DNA of what we do as an entrepreneur. And then the circle around that is you. So evolving you, like what's your business that you develop and that comes from your true heart and your true essence and what you were almost like designed to do, and figuring it out. And, it's going to evolve as you evolve as well, but being aware enough of that and trying to put something out there that is, almost like an artist, and looking at your business as a canvas and figuring out how do you put the most elegant evolved enterprise impact models to work, and how do you just create this artistry that can be done through your business, like, and who it serves. And then the next circle around that, or next ring rather, is your cause, like your why. Like, why are you doing things? So for us, it's changing the way business is played, and I look at that as kind of like your North Star. Like, you're not going to get to it. It's your North Star. It's your guiding light. But it's that's ours. It's changing the way business is played. And then the next ring out is divided up into three rings, and it's your community. So it creates customers who love what you're doing and want to share it, and who are huge super fans, and an internal culture. So culture is the next one, of a team that's aligned around the greater, bigger mission, and who are totally engaged. And then the creation, which is your product or service. Like, how does that create an impact that's baked in? And so that's that evolved enterprise model that I really figured out all these different pieces. And along this way, as Maverick kind of continued, and I changed the name when I went back to figuring out what this ecoverse was. We changed it to Maverick 1000 because I thought this idea of 1,000 game-changing entrepreneurs could actually make a difference in the globe. And we were able to do some really interesting things, meet some really amazing people. Like, I mentioned Sir Richard Branson before, and Rich Tierling from the former CEO of Harley Davidson, and Tony Hsieh from Zappos, or Chip Conley from Joie de Vivre Hotels. And I mean, I could just kind of keep naming names, but less about the names, more about what they taught me and how I looked at what they were doing in their company, what they were doing differently, how they were, thinking about things. And truly, people have been talking about this idea of, I don't know, conscious capitalism or triple bottom line, or there's a lot of for-benefit companies. Yep. What's that? Yeah, social entrepreneur, yeah. And for me, my term is evolved enterprise, and it's like everyone's kind of talking about it in roughly the same way. And I see this as this coming shift, the biggest business shift going on that really could change everything. And it's like a way of aligning the heart or the soul of your business and yourself to kind of put out the biggest, most meaningful work of your life, and to do something in a way that also is incredibly good for the world and drives your bottom line. And that's where it gets super exciting.
That is exciting, and that's awesome. That's even part of why I started this podcast, was to help create 200 new multimillionaires. So I fully get it, because entrepreneurs are the change makers. And so, what is the book? The book. Evolved Enterprise, who's like the best person for that for? Like, if I get that, what is it going to help me do? Am I going to get like worksheets and stuff out of that? Is it going to give me kind of a north guiding light? Is it going to help me identify a contrast between an evolved enterprise versus maybe the business that I've built for myself and maybe the cage I've created? Like how should people use the book?
Yeah. So the book is a framework that framework that I just outlined about, starting with you in the beginning, and then cascading or concentric circles going out to these rings outward. So it has that framework. In every single section, we talk about not only great examples, but then figuring out what that looks like. And you don't have to add every single one of those pieces, but it's being aware of them and looking at examples. And then as you keep stacking them on one another, it gets more powerful. And so what I'd like to say about this is that it helps you go from a transactional company, which is you're essentially a commodity, and people care about price, and that's about it. Or if you're in their area at that time, or whatever the case is, to more of a transformational company where the identities of your customers change, the identities of people that you work with change, the identities of everyone that the business surrounds itself with change, to even transcending what business can be. And where it becomes a win-win-win-win across everything. And it's really exciting. And, Daryl, some people might be saying, well, you're kind of just talking about giving back, right? And I'm definitely not talking about giving back.
No, you're talking about creating a legacy, I think. Forgive me for putting words in your mouth, but that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's if you think about it that way. I mean, I think about, I call this a legendary legacy, in fact, yeah. When you start thinking in that way, it does become a true legacy. And then giving back is interesting. It's like that's become a little bit more in vogue. And so, as you know, I started as a copywriter, so words are incredibly important. And to me, giving back implies guilt. Like, entrepreneurs have taken something, and entrepreneurs are all, regardless of where your business is right now, if you're in business, you're a value creator, or you're not going to be in business very long. Yeah. So you're already providing value. And so, giving back, I'm not a fan of giving back. I think we need new vocabulary for evolved enterprises. And, I talk about impact a lot. And so these evolved enterprises, one of the things that they actually have that they're able to show are these impact scoreboards.
Really?
And it gets really exciting so I had, probably a good example of an evolved enterprise, or one of the probably best known, or people would identify with, is Tom's Shoes. And Tom's, they They actually are a $300 million enterprise, which not many people know that.
Wow.
They're pretty darn big. And so Blake Mycoskie founded Tom's. I had the good fortune to interview him last year. And when we talked, the main thing that he would talk about is a scoreboard, which was they had at that point given away 35 million pairs of shoes. And so as a byproduct of that, they've sold 35 million pairs of shoes profitably. And it's kind of mind blowing. So they didn't, I don't think they created, but they really got a lot of credit for this buy one, give one model, the 1-for-1 model. And so that's one of the models. And I have 11 different models that I talk about inside the Evolved Enterprise book. But that's one good one. And so what gets really exciting about that is, it's like, I think about it as like merging your head, which is your business side of things, your marketing side of your brain, along with your heart, the giving part. And then, for me, for sure. And I encourage other people is like merge also your inner child and a bit of that playfulness as well. And it all just is like accelerates everything. So he was able to get partnerships with like Nordstrom's and huge, window displays in New York, and like I forgot which, it might have been Bloomingdale's or some company. They were able to get big partnerships that they wouldn't have gotten if they didn't have this. Yeah,
this altruistic and sincere, and because it's a sincere thing, it's a sincere desire to help others and create value. That's like a very Buddhist thing. They say most people, when they do something for others, they expect something in return, but you should really be, like the grapevine that just produces fruit, year in, year out, and never asks for anything back. So I really love it. And Buzz, like light bells went off in my head when you mentioned that you've got more models like that in the book. I was like, once you said, how many did you say you got? Because I was like, what are the other ones? Can you give me one more? Like, come on.
I'll give you a couple more. I mean, because I got 11 of them, and they're exciting. So one is Source Matters. It's model number 6. It's like looking at the source of, and apparel companies have done it. Some of them have done a good job of this, looking at each part of the chain and what things happen. And then one company that I've looked at that's really interesting is this company called Elvis and Kresse. And they started off as they're 2 designers, and they're walking down the street in London and saw all this fire hose sitting outside of probably a fire department, like, the big red fire hose. And they're like, wow, that's just going to go into a landfill, and it's actually beautiful material. I wonder what we could do with it. And so they started designing like DOP kits, like whatever they are, shower kits, your toilet kits. They started creating belts with it. They started creating keychains with it and wallets. It's a really beautiful material, and it actually creates like that. Recycling or upcycling or using these reclaimed materials creates a more beautiful end product.
Yeah.
And so it's like all baked into it. That's where it gets really exciting, is that the creation part of it is baked in. And so they also will they'll give 50% of their profits, I believe, to different charities that are associated with fire department charities. So it's like all interconnected.
I love that.
Yeah,
you're triggering. I wish I remembered. I remember when I was in Japan. I was really into sustainable energy. There's a guy in Germany that was working with United Nations, and he designed like a beer plant, and it was like it had a water turbine to generate power, and they diverted like a river to power it, and then they had a pond, and then they had created a fishery out of that, and it was like they had like the hops. They would take the used hops and spread them out over a field.
Oh, cool.
Like it was completely 100% renewable. But that's what you're talking about. And the source, I love that. So source matters. So you're talking about finding the source material and finding like a way to renew something that's already a waste product to create something more beautiful. Is that correct?
That's part of it, or just exploring what that source, keep going back to the source and figuring out what could be done in a better way. I mean, Patagonia is a really good example of this. Like, they have complete transparency about where their materials come from and how it's done. This company called Icebreaker, which is a merino wool company. I love them. I'm actually wearing a bunch of their stuff all the time, and I wear their underwear. And like, they even have a code on there where you can go back and track the sheep and see what's going on with the sheep. So you can take this really far. And but what's really even more exciting about this, to my marketing mind anyway, is that it drives business. Yeah. So I've had people, I've seen split tests done where there's a split test, and so this is a little bit tactical, and I hope so it's like anything, right? Like when I used to teach psychology and influence, it's like it could be done for good or evil, and it's got to be done with a genuine heart, like you said, an authenticness to it, or authenticity to it. Sorry, that's where it has to come from. And if it's not, we know we're a totally interconnected society, and stuff is going to get out there. So that's my sort of caveat to you, to the listeners. But I've seen A/B split tests where one page had a certificate that says we give $50 to these different causes, and then another one that didn't have that on there, and it was for a $2,000 training program, and they increased their conversion 10%. Yeah. So it's pretty interesting. And then I've seen shopping cart order forms, or one of my friends showed me they have a pretty big operation selling supplements, and they added a piece for Make-A-Wish Foundation that they're a big supporter of. And it was like optionally, donate this amount. It was like $1, $2, $5, $10, and the customer could choose that. And that's all it was added. And it actually increased their shopping cart conversion 15%. So it's pretty crazy. Yeah, and that's why I talked about like the community. And the more you integrate this even more beyond the transactional level, it becomes something that your customers want to spread and share and really just go out of their way to make sure that your brand is really succeeding, because there's a bigger mission behind it.
Well, it sounds like you're finding a way to. Oh, I'm getting some echo. It sounds like you're finding a way to get your customers involved in making the world a better place, to give them the opportunity. They're going through their day-to-day lives, right? They're doing whatever. They're buying your thing because they need it, but they could buy it from you or someone else. But hey, not only can I get what I'm looking for, I can also help change a life in a third world country, or I can also help feed someone or clothe someone. So I think that's a powerful need. I think everyone listening to this call wants to contribute to the world and have their life have meaning. And I think all of us, some people might not necessarily understand it's almost like the universe. Like, the universe is big. I say that, people are like, yeah, but it doesn't really dawn on them. Like, how, you know what I mean? Like, the reality of it doesn't, hit them in the face. And so same thing, when we say the word, leaving a legacy, how much that means to a single human life. Because, the vast majority of humans are dead. 99.9% of every human that's existed now is dead. And the only ones that are carried on is by their legacy. Like the Rockefellers, all these people that have done something significant that carries forward through future generations and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And you're right, that's not going to have the structure and framework it needs if it's self-serving, if it's really, if it's just small-minded, if it's not like what you're talking about being an evolved enterprise where there's some social good to it, that, doing business with you, your company, there's a reason, there's a morale behind it. It's going to help, a deeper purpose. It's going to help it live on through the years. So I think that's an amazing tip. And anyone that's got a business that's already up and running, or again, they're around the 6-figure mark, or even doing 7 figures or more, great, you've proven that you've got a product or service people need and want. Now's the time to really kind of build a moat around what you've done and try to create a legacy out of it. And I think I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think there really is a movement towards those social entrepreneurs, or the shift, or whatever you want to call it. But it's there's more people getting internet, there's more people getting online, ever since the internet now and how it's spreading across the globe. It's like a central nervous system for humanity. We've never had that before. So in some ways, like you mentioned, it's empowering people to create massive changes and massive differences in the world. And if you're not doing it and your competitors are, they're going to leave you behind in the dust, right?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think that you got a 4 to 7 year window where this becomes almost like standard. You don't have a competitive, you're going to be at a competitive disadvantage if you don't have an authentic impact. And it's not just, we're going to, figure out a way to donate $5 from every order to Make-A-Wish, or whatever, the case is. It doesn't, not necessarily even at a tactical level. I mean, it could be at a cultural level, what you do with your team and how things show up. I mean, there's so many places, and that's what, the book kind of explores all these, and you can kind of pick and choose which ones make sense. The central nervous system analogy is really interesting, Daryl. I totally believe we're at this point where what the mystics of the ancient times are saying is almost being proven. Not even almost, it is being proven by modern technology, and the internet. Yeah, is that central nervous system of a pragmatic way of saying we're all interconnected. When the mystics are saying that forever that everything is connected, and there's all these other interesting implications of that as well. But I believe that what serves the collective whole also serves you as well. So it's the most the most selfish thing that you can do is actually being selfless in that way.
Yep. Yep. You're totally right. Because again, people think they live external to their environment, and not to take us on too much of a tangent, but the
Yeah,
fish, it lives in the water, but the fish is also part of the water. The fish can't exist without the water. Like the outside world is as much you as the inside world. Because
yeah,
your eyes create sunlight. The sunlight is just a vibration. It's just a wave. It's your eyes that turn it into light. It's your ears that create sound. It's your soft skin and the nerves in your finger that make grass soft and a rock hard. It just is, and it's you that's shaping it and forming the world outside you, and often even your perspective. I mean, when you come to something, anyone who plays any sports, whether it's golf or bowling, which are big in my family, I'm not so big on it, but even in martial arts and that, the mentality that you bring to something, and it's even what you're talking about here with the involved enterprise, the intent behind when you come to something can determine like how well you succeed at it, right? If you come to a relationship with like a scarcity and a take mentality, like even a friendship, if someone's just like trying to take from you all the time, like it's going to obviously run its course. Evil will, there was a saying, Confucius has saying that evil will eventually consume itself, and that's basically kind of the same sort of again, not to get into some big, hokey woo-woo talk, but I fully believe in it that exactly what you say, that we are all connected, and the only way to ensure, it's like kids, if you have kids and you want to ensure your kids have a good education and a good environment, the best thing you can do is try to take care of the environment and take care of the economy and take care of the community, because that's where your kids are going to live. You can't piss in your own watering hole and then assume that everything's going to be okay, right?
yeah.
Like, whatever, I get my water from here every day, but I'm just going to piss into it, and it'll all work out. Like, no, you can't do that. And I think that's kind of where we're at. Like, the world's becoming so transparent, so flat, that I'm so getting a book because I want to know the other models.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, that's even just that's one chapter. That's chapter 3. So this has truly been like as I said earlier, like not putting my full heart and soul into something. This has been something that I've absolutely put my heart and soul into this book, and we're giving away 10,000 copies of them at my cost. At essentially, I'm transparent about how much it costs for printing, what it costs for shipping and postage and fulfillment, and then we're also giving away, including $1 donation to Virgin Unite, which is a charity that I support quite a bit, and so people can grab that at evolvedenterprise if they want.com, and if they want to be one of the 10,000 that pick that up. I was going to give you another example that I think defines transcending business, which is to me, where it gets really interesting. And so this is actually model number 8. It's called Empowered Employment. And so there's a company called Ultra Testing out there that they do like user interface testing or GUI testing, or like cross browser testing to make sure that everything's compatible. And so what they've done is they've hired people on the autism spectrum scale to be their employees to do this testing, because people on the autism spectrum scale they actually have a better tolerance for just doing stuff over and over, for attention to detail, pattern recognition, focus. Typically, not obviously everyone's different, but typically they do, and so they're essentially using this as a competitive advantage, which is really, really, really interesting to me. And it's like a win across the board. And that's where I get super excited. It's like all those things become wins. And it's not like, it's not a guilt driven thing. It's not like business to me. That's why I think it has the biggest reason to be a disruptor in the world and to be a change agent, is because it's value based. It's an exchange, voluntary, not driven by something else. It's not, no one's forcing you to buy from a company. Yeah. And so that's where it gets so exciting.
Yeah, I think, no, you're right. Buckminster Fuller used to call it the percussion effect. And he would cite why the birds and the bees, or sorry, not the birds, but bees and flowers have coexisted for, centuries, because the fact that they're both self-serving, but the causes overlap, and so they both get what they need, and so there's no like, I'm doing you a favor, you're doing me, like that doesn't exist. They just, it just works out really well, and it's it's pollution is just chemicals in the wrong place. So it's just finding that homeostasis, or that synchronicity. I love what you said. I just had an intern join my team. She's deaf. And I thought I was going to use that as a superpower and have her go through all my text content and products, because if her main communication mode is text, then this is a way that she's got a superpower. Make sure that everything is very clear, very concise, and very complete. That the text alone explains everything you need, whether you've got the video or not, or all that stuff. So I love that analogy about the
That's
autistic people
cool.
and putting them into a place where they'll be like they essentially have a superpower, because you're
Yeah.
taking a disability in one area and putting them in a place where that gives them running room to actually excel at it. So I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. So there's actually a model I talk about in the book too. Under it might be under Empowered Employment as well. As it's a company called Miracle Couriers in India that uses deaf people to deliver it's courier packages
Okay.
because they're really better at visual and map reading and so forth. And then with every package they deliver, they have a little slip that talks about the deaf population there, because in India a lot of stereotypes, a lot of
Right.
segregation because of
Yeah.
of this disability. So it's again a win-win, and it's really powerful.
That's awesome. So obviously, this book, Evolved Enterprise, it sounds like a must-read. I know I'm like you've teased me enough with the models that I'm very much intrigued. And like you said, I really think that it's my personal opinion that you're right in that. I mean, you say the timeline 4 to 7 years. I haven't thought about how soon, but I do know the world is going in that direction, where your business has to solve a real problem. I mean, the what happened to newspapers with the internet, that just proved that just thinking that your business model is stuffing ads and wad of content and delivering it to people, it's not solving the core problem. Gary Bencivenga says that problems are markets, not demographics. And so I think that's where you're saying is like getting to a core problem and finding a way to use it to help make the world a better place. So if someone's on board, they're like, Yanik, I'm with you. I've got your book. I'm reading this. Are there any habits that you can give us as a tip? Because you've seen so many business owners and entrepreneurs and 8-figure business owners and 7-figure and 6-figure. Can you just share with us kind of some closing comments on the habits that people should consider or think about to make sure that when they get your book and they go through it, that they'll be able to implement and take it, and it won't just be shelf help, but it'll be something that's actually meaningful to them and that they help bring to reality in their lives?
Well, for me, the habits that have shown up that have been the most useful. I actually have an entire blog post that I did all about this that talks about these 9 daily things that they're kind of 9 M's. And if you hit a lot of them, 6 of them, 7, 9 of them, even, you have a great day. And I use this process when I was looking back at some of my most sort of depressed time of figuring out what was I really doing, and I use that to get back into a state of really joy, bliss, and happiness. And so that's part of it, I think. And that's inside the book, but they can also find it at yaniksilver.com/return path. And that outlines all of those 9. But for me, the cornerstones have really become in a daily practice. And this may or may not be for everybody, but it's been yoga, it's been meditation, and it's been journaling. Those are the 3. I guess corners means 4. So my 3 tri-stones for but so, and the 9 M's are, everything from like movement. So for me, I get the movement out of yoga. I also play hockey a couple times a week. And then the mindfulness, I mean, it can come in different ways. Like, I never thought I could meditate. And then I learned from Russell Simmons, who's a pretty classic ADD guy. And I'm like, all right, if Russell can do it, I think I can do it. And so I've been at it about 2 years, and it's become a daily practice. It's been really amazing, and not like a light switch moment, but definitely it's a practice, and it's something that I think the more stillness that you create and cultivate in your life, the more you'll hear that voice of what your heart wants you to know and what it wants you to do. And that's where it lines up with your business and your skills and your talents and resources, then bring those all to bear. And that's where it gets really exciting to me as an evolved enterprise.
Got it. Yanik, you've given so much value. This has been a great call. This is the one I'm definitely going to, I've already been taking notes, but I feel like I want to go back and take some more. So it's definitely a call worth listening to again and again. Is there anything that I should have asked you that I haven't asked you?
That's a good question. Maybe why I even care about this?
Why do you even care about this?
I don't know. Why do you ask that? No, what I care about is, so we already mentioned, entrepreneurs. You and I both share that shared desire and belief about entrepreneurs. Like I care about the ripple effect. I care about being a catalyst of, someone's going to listen to this and get a new idea that can make a difference and make an impact. Someone's going to pick up the book, and I look at those 10,000 books that were given away at cost as seeds, and to spread this message and planting these ideas. And it's like if you feel drawn to it, there's a reason for it, and it's like, the ripple effect is so exciting to me that that's why with our Maverick 1000 network, which are the higher level entrepreneurs, like they all have a really big footprint in what they do and leverage in what they do. So to me, if I can have any sort of effect on them, then I know the ripple is going to be even bigger. And that's where I get so excited is these networks and these leverage points and nodes and sometimes they're tiny little shifts and sometimes they're big ones.
Very well said. Yanik, I really value and appreciate the time you've given us today. So where can people go if they're interested in getting the book again?
Yeah, go to evolvedenterprise.com. So evolvedenterprise.com, and they can pick up one of the 10,000 books while we're giving that away. And it's not available anywhere else right now except for the site.
Okay. And then also you talked about, gave a URL. So you had your 9 daily M's of business success. That's on your site?
Yeah, that's on my blog at yaniksilver.com/returnpath.
Okay, and that's YANIKSILVER.com/returnpath. Perfect. Right. Okay. Well, Yanik, I thank you so much for your time today. Like I said, this was a real content jam-packed call. Tons of tips, tons of follow-up, model, actionable steps. Just even from anyone that's just getting started to people that are already up and running. And like I said, they feel like they've got the success they've had and they've hit the kind of what I think happens to a lot of us. You feel like you achieve the success. Hey, I'm generating millions of dollars, but you still feel unfulfilled.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's really something for everyone here. And I don't know, I encourage all the listeners, the book you don't own, you can't read, and the book you don't read can't help you. So strongly encourage you to check out evolvedenterprise.com. Check out that book. And definitely go check out Yanik's blog. He's been a mentor from a distance for me for a number of years, and it's just an honor and pleasure to have him here and be able to introduce everyone on the call to him. So once again, Yanik, thank you so much for your time, and I really value and appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you, Daryl.
You've reached the end of our interview. Now, first, let me thank you for listening. I appreciate and respect you more than you'll ever know. And now I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. First, what 3 lessons did you just learn? What 3 aha moments just jumped out at you? Second, what can you implement for yourself and your business in the next 24 hours? Third, what can you give to someone else to help you with, or give to them to just do it for you? Whatever it is, remember, taking action is the secret sauce to results. Now, if you think this interview would be helpful for a friend, please give them a link to it. It'll help them and it'll help me too. I'd also like to invite you to help me find out more about the challenges you're facing, your dreams, your goals, and how I can help you overcome what's holding you back. We both do better when we know better, and your success is my success. So please reach out and interact. You can visit our website, bestbusinesscoach.ca for Canada or California, where I'm from and where I'm living. You're welcome to also try out one of our paid programs. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and pretty much every other social media channel you can think of. You should also subscribe to the podcast, and if you're enjoying them, please leave us a nice review. It really helps. That's all for now. Once again, thank you. Take care of yourself, and remember, the world needs the best business you can build. And I believe in you.